It is right around 11 p.m. on Saturday, August 2nd, 2025. It's still fairly early on a Saturday for it to be this quiet. It's like there's a bomb scare. It's also starting to drizzle, even though I thought we were supposed to have some very clear weather for the whole weekend. But that's okay. I'm fine with the drizzle. Like, bring on the rain, right? So earlier this evening, I got a memo that Oleg Eliseyev of the Greenville Group had contacted his attorney, Attorney Van Dyke, to try to take a new lawsuit against my tenancy. Mr. Eliseyev is a malignant, very sort of prejudiced hater towards me. And that is very evident in the number of times Mr. Eliseyev has contacted his attorneys to take legal action against my tenancy over the last 5 years. 5 lawsuits in 5 years. That is how malignantly prejudiced Mr. Eliseyev is towards me, not towards any other tenants. He has not taken legal action against anyone else at all, in fact. All I need to do for Mr. Eliseyev to start contacting his attorneys is to send legal notices to Mr. Eliseyev and other members of the Greenville management team regarding Jasmine Irizarry's ongoing use of a directed energy weapon. And that's when I get a little too close to the truth and Mr. Eliseyev retaliates. Oh, it's starting to rain. That's interesting. Has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that the weather's not what they said it would be this evening. And Mr. Eliseyev has never had a case against me, which is why I'm still here. And he's wasted tens of thousands of dollars on legal fees in the last 5 years trying to get rid of me because he's a psychotic, obsessive hater. He doesn't rent to white women. He also doesn't rent to Asian women. He doesn't really rent to women at all. He rents to mostly behaviorally disturbed, violent, aggressive, minority male sex offenders who claim to be BLM activists and can't leave women alone. So when I send multiple emails to the Greenville Group complaining of the fact that I'm getting aggressively harassed by violent, wall and floor banging psycho pigs in the adjacent units to mine that house sex offenders, and these are legitimate concerns when it is a known fact, according to the housing court and other legal agencies in the city of Boston, that the Greenville Group houses large numbers of sex offenders and works closely with agencies that seek to house sex offenders, then my concerns are very legitimate when I'm getting violently harassed in my bathroom by some psycho sitting behind the wall of my toilet, slamming things against the back of my toilet, only at the moment that I happen to try to use that toilet. When I send emails about this to Mr. Eliseyev, he takes legal action against my tenancy, and the retaliation and prejudice are blatant and completely unmasked, and I should take action against him for retaliation and prejudice and discrimination. But I've been so busy defending myself against his frivolous and baseless lawsuits in court over the last 5 years that I haven't had the time to focus on playing offense. I have been literally tied up with playing defense. However, Mr. Eliseyev's request earlier this evening to Attorney Van Dyke to file a new lawsuit against my tenancy has fallen flat, completely flat, because there's no case. He doesn't have a case. I don't do anything. I don't do anything that other tenants aren't also doing, and worse. I mostly stay in the privacy of my unit with the door closed. I have to keep the window open because the Greenville Group has been blasting the heat continuously for 4 days now, and they've refused to turn it down. So I am forced to keep this window open But if I could keep it closed, I would, for privacy, right? So if people who are hanging out on the street, loitering, eavesdropping, perving and creeping, looking for women to harass, claim that they're being harassed because I'm somehow taking pictures of the street or I'm singing or shouting in the privacy of my living space, that is not a case. That's not even a legitimate complaint. If you're walking by on the street and you hear somebody singing or playing music in the privacy of their living space, then stop listening and keep walking, perverts, right? But the Greenville Group's tenants and their property manager, Mr. Oleg Lisiev, are so mentally disturbed and idiotic. They think that if you're standing outside of somebody's residence, perving and creeping, and then you don't like what you hear, that you have the right to complain about what you can hear them doing in the privacy of their living space that has nothing to do with you. There's a bunch of perving, creeping psychos who are always, oh, see, now the BLM perving, creeping psychos playing music from that vehicle right there. There's a group of BLM psycho pervert, hate stalking rejects, sex offender male psycho pigs who always loiter around that vehicle right there. And right now that vehicle is playing music because all they do is loiter and perv and creep, and they always station themselves directly below my windows. And then when they can somehow hear what I happen to be doing in the privacy of this living space, and again, I have to keep the window open because the Greenville Group are so pathetically incompetent that they've been blasting the heat in this unit for the last 4 days, even though the temperatures outside have been between 60 and 75 degrees. There's no reason to have the heat on, especially not up to 85 degrees, as I have documented in multiple videos. These perving, creeping psycho rejects, male sex offender psycho trash, stand there for hours. They themselves get disruptive. But then when they can hear what I am doing, what I happen to be doing in the privacy of my living space with the door closed, and again, I have to keep the window open for ventilation, as I've mentioned in dozens of videos, then they complain to the property manager that I am somehow harassing them, even though they're the ones standing deliberately on a public street, deliberately trying to hear what other people do in the privacy of their living spaces, and then they complain about what they can hear these people doing circumstantially in the privacy of their living spaces. And Mr. Alisiev is such a pathetic idiot when it comes to pandering to the sex offender, psycho trash population that he houses in large numbers in this building complex, that he actually contacted Attorney Van Dyke this evening and tried to get Attorney Van Dyke to open a new case against my tenancy. Wow. Now that is a whole other level of stupidity, idiocy, ignorance, and triggered prejudice, psychotically triggered chronic prejudice to get against a single female tenant. Mr. Alisiev is just as much of a mentally disturbed woman hater as all the sex offender psycho pigs who he chooses to house in large numbers in this building complex. Ironically, the very few female tenants who are also housed in this building complex, courtesy of Mr. Alisiev's social agenda, hate other women. They're mentally disturbed, hate stalking, jealous rejects. I'm talking about the 3 women that happen to be housed in that building right there, and maybe 3 in this building, none of which look like me. So Mr. Alisiev does not rent to Caucasian females. That's a fact. I think there might be one other Caucasian female, and she's such a malignant, hate-stalking reject that she's not even really a human. She's more of like a shrieking animal. Anyway, there's a whole other level of idiocy and prejudice going on here. But this silence right here is what happens when they have no case. They're desperately digging around in the dirt to find something they can possibly use against me. That's how prejudiced and disturbed these rejects are. And I'm talking about the management of the Greenville Group, as well as their malignantly, mentally disturbed sex offender tenant population. And they have nothing. You can't file a claim against a private resident for singing or shouting or playing music in the privacy of their living space that does not exceed local noise ordinances, particularly in the middle of the day. And if people are going to stand outside my door, outside my windows, and try to listen to what I happen to be doing in the privacy of my living space, has nothing to do with them, then they're the perving, creeping psychos, and if a case should be filed against them, right? So it's very quiet tonight because they lost, right? They lost, and they know that. See, there's music. There's somebody in that hate stalking, perving, creeping, masturbating BLM sex offender vehicle. These pieces of shit sit in there for hours. Listen to this. Now they're playing the music. See, this is what happens when people smoke crack and then they drive. Why is that piece of shit blocking the intersection? Yeah, that's the low life level of dysfunction that we're dealing with here in this corner. So again, this is what you don't have a case, you pathetic hating lowlifes, looks and feels like and sounds like in this corner. They lost and they know it. And they will always lose. And they have already lost so many times. It's embarrassing for them to keep trying and trying and trying and trying because they're stupid. And I'm not. And that's a fact. And that's why I'm still here. And they keep spending tens of thousands of dollars on attorney's fees that have not given them anything close to what they keep trying to achieve. Because prejudice never wins. And I'm not the one who's prejudiced.